everybody, it's Catherine from Jayne Catherine on Books, and I'm here with a few of my non-fiction books that I would like to get to this month, as it's non-fiction November. Now today is November the 11th, so it's Armistice Day, Remembrance Day, and it's my sister's birthday today. She was born on the 11th of November, and also David's stepmom is 80 today. So we've got some birthday celebrations going on in our family. And yeah, big thank you to all armed forces that are out there keeping us safe and working very, very hard, doing loads and loads of logistical things for us here in the UK for the pandemic and helping with testing and logistics and stuff. So a big thank you to them. Okay, so I'm going to start with this book, which is beautiful. It's hot off the press, Opening the Box of Delights. And this is a lovely hardback by Philip W. Errington. And Box of Delights, if you don't know this book, is a really lovely children's story. It's by John Masefield. It goes back to, was it 1950s? 1930s. Goes back to the 1930s. It's set in England in 1930s. And it's a bit like, I'd call it an urban fantasy, I suppose, nowadays, because it's there's quite a lot of fantasy elements to this story. Part fantasy, part fairy tale, bit of magical realism, which is quite forward thinking for the 1930s. And it's David's favourite book, and at this time of year, his birthday's in December, so as we get near his birthday, he always rereads the Box of Delights, and the first book of this is Midnight Folk by John Masefield. But this is a non-fiction, beautiful book looking at all sorts of different things to do with the Box of Delights. An in-depth look at the characters and a lot of things to do with illustrations, more about John Masefield, who was the poet laureate. I'm just trying to keep what's it like under its dust? It's got the most beautiful end papers. It's quite plain under the dust jacket, but look at lovely end papers there. It really is a beautiful, stunning book, and I think it's very interesting and all about producing the television adaptation and photos and illustrations and all sorts of useful, informative information. So take a look at that. It's only just come out. It's got a dedication in the front as well from Philip Errington to David. So one for his collection of goodies to do with a Box of Delights. Next, now it's something that I think very passionate about. Trees, water and trees. They're two elements that are very, very important to me. And I say elements because in many books they call trees as the fifth element, and you know, they believe that so many things can be told, so many stories through trees. I mean, even if you don't believe in any sort of mystical folklore or pagan rites, paganism, etc., to do with wood and trees. If nothing else, they've been there hundreds and hundreds of years, and if trees have eyes, that's what I say. And I spotted this. It's only very small. It shouldn't take me long to read. It says about an hour. And this is Holloway by Robert Macfarlane, and I'm sure most people will have heard of Robert Macfarlane. He very much writes beautiful nature books. Stanley Dorwood and Dan Richards, and also there's a testimonial in here for Roger Deakin, who helped with this book but who sadly passed away in 2006. But this is lovely. It's a bit like a poetry book, but talking about various aspects of trees, and there's illustrations in it, and yeah, it's just beautiful. Then next, I think you may have seen this in a recent book haul that I did, and I mentioned that I got this for Non-Fiction November. So in 1995, Jean-Dominique Bauby suffered a massive stroke, and from then on suffered with locked-in syndrome. And you know, it must be quite horrendous thing to have, because apparently all the senses are still intact, but they can't communicate to the outside world. And in a way, this is his memoir about how he faced adversity with everything that had happened to him from a health point of view. So I'm really looking forward to that. Then next, one that I've had on the shelves a while, and in a way I picked this up for David, Do the Birds Still Sing in Hell? And this is a true story about Horace Greasley, who was in the Royal Leicestershire Regiment, and yeah, he was taken as a prisoner of war, and this is his true story. And I think this will be interesting and actually poignant to be highlighting on Remembrance Day, Armistice Day, the horrors of war, and what some of these people really had to go through, either fighting in the war or lives in concentration camps. So this looks really interesting. It says it's a Sunday Times bestseller. Next, one that I have mentioned on my channel before, but it is a really good read, so if I have time I'll try and reread it. It's called Call Me Elizabeth by Dawn Annandale. This is a memoir, and it's really interesting. I think it's a very thought-provoking memoir. For those that you don't know about Dawn Annandale, is that she came to a point in her life where financially the family was struggling, and she couldn't afford to pay bills, and some might argue that her children were in private school and she couldn't afford to pay the fees, and it came a point where they were at breaking point as a family, and she realised that it was only her that really could get her out of this mess. So she goes and works initially as a escort, should we say, escorting gentlemen to various events, but really it was a ruse. It was a front for really for what was prostitution. And it's very interesting. It goes through the difficulties she had of forcing herself to be a prostitute, really. And at the back of the mind, she's felt that she had to do this for her children, for her family. And I think it does highlight that at the end of the day, push come to shove, how many of us as mothers would do what they needed to do to keep the children safe. Now, some could argue, and I think this is where it's very thought-provoking, that just keeping her children at a private school isn't essential. But in her eyes, she didn't want to disrupt them. They were doing well there, and she did what she felt she needed to do. I think it's a very honest account. It's quite raw in places. It does highlight the dangers that these women are in, that work in this industry. And yeah, I thought it was very good, very well written. So that's Call Me Elizabeth, Dawn Annandale. Next, look at this. Oh, my pen's dropped out. Look at this lovely one. Wildwood, A Journey Through Trees, Roger Deakin. And as I say, I really love trees. I do have an affinity with them. I do find them very spiritual. And we used to live in Sherwood Forest, as probably quite a few of you know. And yeah, now then, I haven't got my reading glasses on. So it says, Wildwood is about the element of wood as it exists in nature, in our souls, in our culture, and in our lives. To enter a wood is to pass into a different world in which we ourselves are transformed. It is no accident that in the comedies of Shakespeare, people go into the greenwood to grow, learn and change. And this is looking at all different adventures that he goes on. Visit, shall we say, not adventures is, well, perhaps it is an adventure, but going through all different woods in the UK, and his thoughts and his descriptions. I've read a couple of chapters of this because these are the sort of books that I like to chip in and out of. I can't just read it from cover to cover, but I'm very looking forward to this. So yeah, Wildwood, A Journey Through Trees. And then finally, and you can see I've already put some stickers in there. I'm reading this at the moment and really enjoying it. It's called Rough Magic by Lara Palmer. Now, I've not heard of this. This is about riding in the world's wildest horse race, and this is in Mongolia. And Lara comes from a sort of a family that has been involved with horse riding and horses, although herself not necessarily been something that she did. And because her auntie is Lucinda Palmer, who was a great Olympian, a great show horse, I forgot what they call it now, show jumping and equine, I won't say equine adventures, I think adventures is my word of today. Different equestrian event, shall we say, and she I think she actually won a gold medal, if I might be wrong, but I think she did. Although she's not competing now because she's probably my age. However, Lara didn't really have much to do with horses until she stumbled upon an article talking about this wild horse race across the plains of Mongolia. And it's how many thousand kilometres through extreme conditions in the Mongolian wilderness. Oh, and I have to say I am enjoying it so far. I'm not a massive non-fiction reader, as most of you will know, because I sometimes find it rather boring in places unless it's something related to textiles or sewing or whatever. You know, my other main craft, shall we say. So it's got to be something quite stunning to really catch my attention. And she's a wonderful writer so far. Yeah, we'll see what I make of it when I've read it, but I am enjoying it so far. It's not just interesting, but she's got a lovely way of expressing words, I think, about this. So, and I've not heard of it either. I'd never heard of it, and of course it can't be easy, can it? They go for so many miles from station to station, and the indigenous peoples of Mongolia are paid to bring their wild horses, so that's supposed to be semi-wild, to these stations along the route, and so that the horses aren't worn out, the riders get off at each station and they get a fresh wild horse. And yeah, and in some ways I suppose it's giving a little bit of income, you know, to the indigenous peoples there for the use of their horses. So yeah, look that up. I think I thought you won't be disappointed. The writing style's beautiful so far. So there we go. That is my little stack of books that I've got out for this year's Non-Fiction November. I'm not following any particular challenges this year. I've just chosen a selection that I fancy reading, and we'll see how we get on. I'm not promising to read them all this month because, as I say, often non-fiction books I like to chip in and out, but yeah, I will be doing a review of them whenever I have. So thank you very much for joining me. Let me know if there's any non-fiction reads that you've got in mind, and if you're taking part in Non-Fiction November. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next video. Keep safe out there, guys. Bye for now.